On the intermediate 3 lesson, number concepts. First, talk about prime numbers. Prime number is a number that has exactly 2 factors. For example, 7 only has 2 factors, 1 and 7. 11 only has 2 factors, 1 and 11. Common misconception, the number 1 is not a prime number. It only has 1 factor, which is 1. A composite number is a number that has more than 2 factors. So the number 1 is neither prime nor composite. First example, what is the ratio? Ratio means comparison of 2 numbers, usually as a fraction. So we're going to write a fraction. We can tell because all the answers are fractions. What is the ratio of the number of prime numbers between 0 and 20 with 1 digit to the number of prime numbers between 0 and 20 with 2 digits? So first, let's find all the prime numbers from 0 to 20. 2 is prime, 3 is prime, 5 is prime, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. All the other numbers, with the exception of 1, they're composite between 0 and 20. So then the question is, what is the ratio, so that's going to be a fraction, from 0 to 20 with 1 digit, there are 4 with 1 digit, to the number of prime numbers between 0 and 20 with 2 digits. There are 4 with 2 digits. That reduces to 1. So that ratio is 1 to 1, or in this case just 1, because that's the only choice that could be correct. Next we got greatest common factor, GCF for short. Greatest common factor is the largest number that will divide into 2 numbers evenly. So let's just jump into this first example. We can see how this works. What is the greatest common factor of 16 and 24? Well, 16 and 24. 16 could be written as 1 times 16. Could be written as 4 times 4. Could be written as 2 times 8. 24 has pairs of factors of 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So which of those factors do they have in common that is the greatest? Well, first of all, the ones they have in common, they both have 1 in common, both have 2 in common, both have 8 in common, both have 4 in common. Which of those numbers is the largest? Well, 8 is the largest of those numbers, so their GCF is 8. There's another way to do this so that we don't have to know what all the factors are. Let me show you what that is. If you break each of these numbers into prime factors, 16 breaks down to 4 times 4. Each of those 4s breaks down to 2 times 2 times 2. 24, you can break it down in different ways. One way is to break it down to 3 and 8. 8 breaks down to 2 times 2 times 2. The greatest common factor, you take all the prime factors they have in common. 2, 2, and 2. So each of these have 3 2's in common, which is the same as saying 2 to the 3rd, which is 8. Number 2, if A is the greatest common factor of 12 and 18, B is the greatest common factor of 24 and 15, what is the value of A times B? So we first got to figure out what A is. A is the GCF of 12 and 18. I think you'll find that the GCF of 12 and 18 is 6. B is the GCF of 24 and 15. I think you'll find that GCF is 3. Then we're trying to find the product of A times B. That's 6 times 3, which is 18. If you need more explanation on these GCFs, I will give that to you right now. 12, you can make a factor tree. Let's do that. Let's make a factor tree. Breaks down to 4 times 3, and then 4 breaks down to 2 times 2. Comparing that to 18, 18 can be broken down to 3 and 9, and then 9 can be broken down to 3 and 3. And I'm sorry, that's not right. 18 breaks down to 2 times 9. That's 2 times 3 times 3. So the GCF, they both have a 2 and a 3 in common. So the GCF is a 6, which we have already stated. Comparing the 24 and 15, 15 breaks down to 3 times 5. 24 breaks down to 3 times 8. 8 breaks down to 2 times 2 times 2. So what do those have in common? Only a 3. As stated, the GCF was 3. Moving on. Number 3. Let E equal 120. How many positive factors, including 1 and 120, does E have? Now there is a special way to do this problem that's real quick and easy that you will never remember, so I'm not going to do that. Let's write down factors of 120. Pairs. So does 1 go into 120? Yes, 1 goes into everything, 120 times. Does 2 go into 120? If you just grab a calculator, take 120 divided by 2, you'll see it goes 60 times. 3 goes into 120, 40 times. 4 goes into 120, 30 times. So already we know that those answers aren't correct because we already have 8. We have 8 right now. 5 goes into 120. 24 times. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We already have 10. So the answer has to be 16 because it's already past all the other answers. Could list them all, but we don't need to because it's multiple choice. Least common multiple. That's the smallest number that two numbers will go into evenly. So for example, let's say that we had 15 and 20. Multiples of 15. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. Multiples of 20, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. These lists go on forever. We're looking for the smallest number that's in each of these lists. And that smallest number is 60. Now, there's a process you can go through to find that without listing all these numbers, because sometimes you can find it quickly, sometimes you don't find it quickly. So here's how you do it. You take the prime numbers of 15 and 20, is 3 times 5. 20 breaks down to 2 times 2 times 5. And then in each case, you take the number the most time it occurs in any of those sets. For example, this has a 3 in it, the other one doesn't. So the most a 3 ever occurs is once. These both have a 5 in them, and the most a 5 occurs is once. This one has a 2 twice, and that's the most it occurs. If you multiply those together, 3 times 5 is 15, times 2 is 30, times 2 is 60. So, depending on the problem, this first method could be faster, but if it's really big numbers, then this method is much faster. So let's look. What is the least common multiple of 96, 120, and 252? If you make a factor tree, you'll find that 96 breaks down to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. If you make a factor tree for 120, you'll get a 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. If you do a factor tree for 252, you'll get 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. The least common multiple can be found by taking each unique number from each of these lists and taking it whichever time it occurs the most. So for example, this has 5 2's. Here it occurs 2 times and 3 times, so that's not going to be it. We got a 3 and a 3 and a 3 twice, and we have a 5 and we have a 7. If you multiply those together, you're going to get 10,800. Least common multiple of those is 10,800.